know, I have a couple of printers at home and an insatiable appetite for paper, so I might have 2 or 3 here myself.
Yeah, I could
It's
pass
okay.
it down.
What do you need?
No, it's it in an email?
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Joe, they're the same as what you emailed us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give it a few more minutes for folks to take a look.
I move to approve the minutes as they stand.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jack. Approval by Debbie. All in favor of those?
Aye.
Signify with
Aye.
aye. All opposed, same sign.
By same sign, do you mean people say aye for nay?
Yes, and I could modify that to request of a nay. And no one in attendance from the public today? That's why we do these on, or first thing Monday morning. Item number 7, items for discussion, Finance Director's report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Wansick, Finance Director. So I have kind of just a group of things to talk to you about. I provided some printouts, but I'll guide you through them because I know that you've received all of this basically literally last minute. I sent out a copy earlier this week, a few days ago, of the town manager's monthly report that I provided to them. I think actually was it maybe just Friday that I sent this out to you. But on that, there's just a few items. It kind of covers the few things that we were accomplished during the month. But the few things I wanted to highlight was that I'm currently involved in a very deep dive analysis of the billing rates for the water billing system, just making sure that the correct rates are being used, and if not, what needs to be corrected. And so that's something that's still underway, and as soon as that analysis is done, I can provide you with the results. Our software, we're very the transition from one system to the other is accurate.
Can that eventually be incorporated in the new ERP?
Yes, they also have the ability to do that. Unfortunately, at the time that the new billing software was sought out, they chose a different one. That was last spring, but I think in the near future we could always incorporate that into Tyler as well. But for now, this would certainly be an improvement to what we have. The next thing I wanted to talk about was our revenue replacement grant that we did receive from the state. We finally received the agreement, and I'm pleased to tell you that there's really surprisingly no strings attached to it. There's no specific reporting that we have to do. It is, let's see, $7,547,805, and it'll be an amount that we'll be receiving from the state when we do have town council authorize the agreement, which should be at the December 16th meeting. Relating the items that could be affected by the hurricane, so the items that could be affected by the hurricane, so not every single item, like for example, grants in the general fund was affected by the hurricane. So by narrowing it down, then we have a $2,387,000 revenue loss, and that is the amount that would be covered by the bridge loan. It's not the final number yet, but it's very close to being final. So, given you that information, I'd like to jump into the next sheet, which is titled Resolution 24-284, authorizing budget adjustment number 3. And the revenue replacement grant. So there's a resolution that's been added to the agenda for the December 16th meeting that approves the revenue replacement grant. This sheet is what I'm proposing to the town council and to you as to what we will do with that money. So that the middle column at the top, that shows the amount that we'll be receiving, and then off to the right, in the right-hand column, is the amount of the bridge loan that we received from the state that we need to repay. And that was also based on lost revenue estimates. So we received in our bank account $11,900,000 from the bridge loan. For 2023, we used $3,085,209 of it. And then just if you follow down, the preliminary lost revenue estimate for 2024 at $6,000 interest. Well, so far year to date, that's what we've earned into 2025. So that's how the bridge loan was used. If we were then to move into the bridge loan fund as a repayment, monies from the revenue replacement fund, so out of that $7.5 million from the state, we'd first of all move the $3.8 million to cover the actual amount we used of the bridge loan for last fiscal year 2023. Then we would move into the bridge loan the amount that would be used to fund 2024's lost revenue, and then we would move into the bridge loan the amount that we would use, the remainder of the balance, which would cover in part the amount that we'll be using, budgeted to use for 2025. So that fully utilizes the money as repayment of the bridge loan, and that combined with the interest that's already earned to date would leave us with revenues that come into the town for capital needs, because right now we're prohibited from doing that. So that's probably the best news about that. In addition, they're still working on getting forgiveness from the bridge loan, but that would take state legislative action, but that is something that they're actively pursuing. And so if that comes to fruition, then this entire amount would also be available for whatever the town decides to use it for. So that's the proposed use of funding for the revenue replacement fund that we'll be receiving soon after it's approved at the December 16th meeting. Okay, so then the next page has to do with the allocation of ARPA funds. And I just printed out one page of the resolution, so that's going also to town council on December 16th, and the heading it shows the ARPA beginning balance at the top, and it's like 2 tables on the sheet. So hopefully you are at that page. So we initially received $3.5 million of ARPs to gather the information we need to submit for reimbursement, and some of that is not reimbursable, and so we're proposing to use like the $41,000 for tidal basin support and putting together the grant proposal for the CDBG-DR, critical infrastructure, and then there's also recovery and resilience planning grant from CDBGR, and that's $12,000 there. They also did some analysis on multifamily housing, which was a potential funding stream also from CDBGR, and this was just to cover their work in that area, but that unfortunately did not lead to anything beyond that. And then they also assisted us with Hurricane Nicole, $7,645, but of course we did not receive anything from the state or FEMA for that, so that would cover that expense. Then there's a portion of town hall expense that will not be covered by FEMA, 28, and by this is the temporary town hall, so our trailer facilities here. Some of that will not be reimbursed by FEMA or insurance, so that's the remainder of $28,000, and this has to do with the FY24 budget. So that's how we carefully parceled out the amount of ARPA for those things. We now have a $1 million grant to improve the Bay Oaks Recreational Center campus, but it required a matching grant of $1 million. So early in the spring of the same calendar, charges from
On
either.
top of the two
It
seventy-five?
is, yes.
Are there, how many more of these vetters are still out there
Well, there,
potentially?
I think Hurricane Ian was really the worst situation, and there's things that we submitted to FEMA for reimbursement that they may choose to declare ineligible. So there may be additional expenses, but to the best of our ability, we have them covered so far.
Okay.
There was also a duck bill outfall expense that was not covered by any type of reimbursement of $104,000, but it was an emergency repair that needed to be done. Then we also are using some of the ARPA funds to pay for the strategic planning project that'll begin underway with the state university. And so that will pay for most of it, and that'll be spread out over the next 2 years. So the total that was obligated for these projects was 2.6 million. That still leaves that 932,000 remaining. So jumping down then to the next box, this is the proposed use. Palm trees for Times Square, they were killed by the latest storm surge in Times Square from Hurricane Milton and Helene. They need to be replaced. Unfortunately, FEMA does not cover landscaping, so that is why we're going to use these funds for that purpose. We're also using 648,000 is proposed to use for the purchase of a combination jet vac truck for stormwater drain cleanout. This is so that the town has its own truck that can be used, since it's something that we're constantly doing. We had like over $1 million contract alone from the last year for that service from a service provider. So by having our own truck, we think that we would be able to save the outside expenditures, as well as have use of it every single day that we would need it. There's also a small project, but had no funding, for $66,464. And then there's also landscaping that's required apparently by Homeland Security around the North Tower. Apparently it's just to help camouflage it. That's what their recommendation is. So there's a fence that was required to put around it, and then they have very specific specifications for the landscaping, the height and the type.
Where's that located, the North
The
Tower?
North Tower,
It's, just past Times Square on the right,
Okay,
that,
yeah,
what's in Lagoon Street.
okay.
In
oh,
Orla-
right on, okay.
Yeah, just past where the old 7-Eleven was.
There's two
Yeah.
lagoons?
I'm sorry?
There's two lagoons on the island?
What's yeah, it's called Lagoon Street.
I live off a lagoon too.
99% sure it's Lagoon.
Okay, so that's the remaining total of 932,000.
Yeah, you may not know the answer, I'm just curious. After they do this canal debris assessment, which clearly there's lots of issues in the canals, what are they gonna do about it? There was that funding that we only had to pay 5% to have the canals cleaned.
I do not know, Debbie, I'm sorry.
I think we,
I presented it.
Yeah.
I presented it.
Yeah.
You'll have to give me a copy to refresh my memory, because I honestly have no recollection of that.
I mean, look, we all want the canals cleaned up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, that's gonna be one of our priorities going forward next year, is that's.
Yeah, there was the two line items, so potentially we only had to pay 5% of the canal cleanup, and then the other one was the dredging
Right.
by Big Carlos Pass.
I still have that document you gave me,
Give it
so.
to Joe.
okay.
You keep it up there, because we may lose that money. If we wait too long, we just lose the money.
Right, exactly.
And 5% is nothing. And they were looking at dredging that before, Ian.
Hmm.
And now it's worse.
It's way worse.
Okay, well, the next thing I just wanted to go through with you, just as by way of just giving you just a glimpse of the financial statements, was as of September, like this is the latest update, I just wanted to give you like where we stand with the general fund in terms of comparison to the budget. And so we're ahead by $528,000 in total in revenue, and then we saved $2.5 million of expenses, which leaves about $3,069,000. So it's, as we're getting closer with accruing our expenses and moving expenses into the correct periods, we are getting, this amount has been growing rather than decreasing, which is what I was concerned it might happen. So we so far we put $2 million into the emergency fund, but this would allow us to have more available to do that or other things. And then I gave you a sheet for 2025. So this is our first month in October. It's really because it's the first month of the fiscal year and so many things have to do with timing, and there's nothing accrued yet. We don't do any accruals until the year end. We're behind in revenue about 25,000, but we're ahead in expenditures by 343,000. And I see I have a formula error at the bottom of that column. That's supposed to add those two, not subtract it, so that would end up being about a $320,000 favorable variance. And
That
that,
should be plus 323, right?
yes, I'm sorry,
28.
this was the last thing I did last night, so but everything was a blur. Okay. So that's all I have for you, for my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Estimates will start being put together as far as the amount, what needs to be done, how much it'll cost.
Cause that's not in this current, this is from before.
This Bay Oaks is just the campus, so it's
Okay.
really the fields. It's
That's everything,
like
okay.
pickleball courts. It's what was originally applied for a few years ago before
Okay.
Hurricane Ian. So they gave us an extension, but we didn't want to lose that money, and it's something that could be done.
Mhm.
And so that's what they're moving forward with that for.
Yeah,
So
cause
is
I
it-
mean, you're probably losing money by it being closed up here,
Yeah,
right? You're not taking in any new
that's
members
true,
or anything.
right.
So is the plan, at least for the indoor portion, is that gonna be completely rebuilt? I haven't been in there since I voted, and it was
Me
obviously
neither, yeah.
stripped.
I honestly, those types of things I'm not really privy to as far as the details of what, that would be. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, like there's been no communication from the town on it, so I'm just wondering. 'Cause like I said, that was our gym and it's closed.
Exactly.
It's the outdoor equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you go, let's see where I'm at, you over here. Is that like a little outdoor workout station or
Yeah.
something, right? Which is-
Oh, and something maybe I should explain, I just assumed you knew, but I forget that you don't necessarily deal with this all the time. So with the ARPA funding, we had, our deadline is we have to have signed contracts to have everything in place, by December 31st, so of this year. And then they have to be fully expended within 2 more years. And so these were the projects that were things that we could
Mhm.
have signed contracts for and be finished within that time limit.
Any other questions on the finance director's report? Do we have a motion for its approval?
Motion to approve?
All right. Motion by Dave, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Barbara. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying no. All right, motion passes. Item 8 is member item reports. I don't believe we have any for today, other than what we've discussed. Anybody?
Actually, I have a question. It was from one of our earlier meetings. We had been so busy with all this other stuff since we started to get leveled out. I think it was Brian who brought it up a year or two ago about risks and how we accrue for risks, how we forecast for risks. I mean, now that we're showing, that we have hurricanes all the time, water main break, there's all these risks out there, and there's also the liens and the different,
At most of my ideas in order to prepare the emergency financial plan. And there, we do have that. That's part of what I presented, I think, a few months back to you and to the town council to approve. So I think, and it's possible that we're one of the first towns in the state that has that, only because when you do a search, you cannot find it anywhere else. And it's something that was newly required by state legislature just this past year, that every town have it. So I think we're one of the first, and we provided it to that FROC program, which is the emergency management department of the state of Florida, is spearheading, where they're trying to get all the towns, municipalities, counties to be proactively preparing for emergencies with their financial planning, with their policies, so that the more things you have in place that they're asking of us to do, the higher we score on that assessment, and then the higher your score, the more funding you receive in advance to from FEMA through the Department of Emergency Management, rather than having to wait to be reimbursed in the future.
Right.
So because by seeing that you have the proper policies and procedures and planning in place, I think it's more like it establishes the trust that they can entrust you with managing those funds appropriately. So we scored almost as high as you can score on that. So and that was a brand new program. So I think that also is good. As far as other types of risk, we believe we're part of that Florida League of Cities and their insurance group. So I know they're also helping us with that. I am not directly involved in that. Our accounting manager mostly deals with the insurance, but they have come out and assessed things for us. But really, it really comes down, our greatest risk, because it's every year, is the hurricanes. And we do have good insurance for everything else. Beyond that, I'm sure there's much more we can do, but that's where we're at. We do have a safety committee also established, just to help make sure that we're doing what we can to ensure employee and citizen safety as they come on campus.
that's great. I mean, that's a lot more than when we asked the question 2 years ago, or whatever that was.
So
Yeah, we've got a
the
blank
League of
stare
Cities
2 years
program
ago.
has been out on premises, post-Ian, and they've done like building valuation assessments, inland marine valuation assessments. Because in the past, we weren't properly insured for a lot of this stuff, right? We didn't have enough coverage, and we could have gotten more. We just chose not to pursue that for whatever reason in the prior administration. No criticism. It was just something that, as you say, it's an ongoing exposure and the biggest one we have. So being current on that is critical to us for reimbursement, or proper reimbursement.
And I guess another aspect is just legally, our town attorney is very proactive in terms of getting contractual language in place and included in our contracts that would protect us. I think that's one of the reasons why it's taking a little bit longer to get our contract ironed out with this for software, because she's requiring some things in there that typically they wouldn't have to agree to.
That's why we got Cameron on better, is the contract wasn't written properly.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest issues.
I'm not sure this is a member report, but I thought it was good information, if you don't mind me sharing, Joe. I'd ask Joe about what kind of monies or how much monies have the town been reimbursed by both FEMA and Florida Department of Emergency Management. And it looks like to date, we've gotten a little over 18.3 million. We've got an additional 2.7 million as a receivable. And then an additional amount from 10/1 of 23 to 9/30 of 24, so we don't know exactly what that number is yet. but,
Not yet. We'll know that figure. That'll be an additional amount. And it's all related to expenses that need to be reimbursed, or that were reimbursed or need to be
Mhm.
reimbursed. So it's not really extra money, it's expenses that we've already incurred.
sure. Sure, I guess the reason I'd ask, just try to get a sense for, you know, how much damage did we get reimbursed on it? It looks like to date, from a cash standpoint, a little over $21 million, so. Again, I know, as you aptly put, it's expense reimbursement, but without that, like I said, we'd be in a lot of trouble. You know, I've had the privilege of being on the audit committee for 4 or 5 years now, and, this is the best financial presentation going forward, Joe, since you've been here, that we've ever been given. And in my opinion, is the town finances are better now than they have been since I've been on the committee. And that was going back maybe 3 years post, or pre-Ian, right? So, just, I guess, hats off to the town and staff from a financial perspective, reporting wise especially, of keeping us up to date and letting us know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we survived how many hurricanes, and we still haven't raised taxes either.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's true.
it says a lot.
Definitely. All right, any other member items or reports? Okay, item 9 is, next meeting, which I guess is to be determined.
Well, it is, and I mean, technically, the audit committee is scheduled in advance to meet every month as far as a regular meeting slot on the town calendar. I think it's the second Monday of every month. And so, you know, you don't, if you would like to deviate from that because of just getting a quorum, just like we've been doing, we can continue to try to do that. I know the town clerk has asked me today if you could at least decide, looking way out into the future, for the meeting that's currently scheduled for Monday, October 13th at 9 o'clock, to either move that to Tuesday, October 7th, or Thursday, October 16th. And again, this is just for purposes of the town calendar, so that we could at least have a slot in
And that's
place.
for 25?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
The 7th would be too early for you, though. You wouldn't be able to be
Exactly.
prepared,
That would make it more
especially
challenging.
since that's year end, too.
Yes, yes.
So the alternative date is the 16th?
The 16th? Is that agreeable? Okay. And, you know, we can judge when we get closer, if we're all able to attend. But the next meeting then would be a month from now, if you would like to meet again, but it's totally up to you. I'd be preparing all this information whether we met or not. So it's not putting any additional pressure on me to meet, so please don't take that as a consideration in your decision, but
So if we follow the calendar, that second week would be Monday, January 13th?
I think so, yes.
Is there any opposition to that date that everybody knows of at this point?
Okay, so,
There's a slight chance I'll be out of town, but I won't be able to attend if I'm out of town.
okay. And as long as we have a physical quorum, that's the most important thing.
Okay, last item on the agenda would be adjournment. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Okay.
Actually, I could typically help with that, but I didn't do my job today. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
You didn't vote.
Do I have all those